Alright, so today we're going to hopefully be doing the last video I need to make of trying to get the dune buggy to run properly. Now, I'm not really sure what we did last video, but I remember that a lot of the comments were about the coils. Replace the coils, check the coils if they're bad, replace them, fix them, whatever. So, my friend gave me a spark tester and I put it on this bike about a couple weeks ago. And found out it's not the coils. The coils are fine. Yes, the gas cap is vented, and the coils are fine. It's getting a really strong spark. It's just something's wrong with the carburetor, where the carburetor it has fuel in the float bowls, but it's just not getting up into the carburetor and into the cylinder. Also, the spark plugs, when I pull them out, they're black after it's been running for quite a while. Which I think it means it's running lean, which means it's not getting enough fuel. So there's something majorly wrong with the carburetor, and it's not the problem of the gas cap is not vented. The gas cap is vented. When I made this gas tank for this bike, for this dune buggy, I did vent the gas cap. I drilled a big hole in the center of it. So the gas cap is vented. It's not a problem of dirt from the gas tank getting into the carburetor. That would only cause it to overflow in gasoline and dump out, which I've been having problems with. But yeah, it's definitely a carburetor issue. So therefore, a couple weeks ago, I started looking into buying a new carburetor. Now I bought this on eBay for $100, a little expensive for how beat up this thing is, but if it gets this engine to run properly, it's worth it, because I was starting to remember when I was first working on this how badly corroded the original carburetor was. I mean, it had so much built up corrosion inside everything that it took me a couple days to scrape it all out, and yeah, there's something definitely wrong with the carburetor, so that's why I'm really hoping that this new carburetor is going to make this engine run properly. So first thing I need to do is take the old carburetor off, and I need to switch some parts out in between them, and I want to clean these the new carburetor that I'm using in that carburetor gallon of paint whatever stuff. So yeah, let's get to work. All right, so here is the old carburetor and here is the new carburetor. Now the new one, yes, it does have some broken pieces. This is bent right here. These two things are broken off. It's missing some screws. It's missing a little spring right there. And but the thing is, the inside of the new carburetor looks a lot cleaner than the inside of the old carburetor. Yes, it has some broken parts, but the old carburetor does not have broken parts. So therefore what I'm going to do is combine them both into a carburetor that will hopefully work a lot better than the old one. Now I did buy some carburetor rebuild kits. These came all the way from Japan, and shipping cost the same amount as they were just to buy these, and it actually took 3 weeks for them to get here, so I'm hoping that these are going to be worth it. So with all this stuff, I'm going to hopefully be able to build a carburetor that will hopefully work properly. Now the first thing I need to do is take the new carburetor apart, take all the plastics and all the rubber pieces off, and dunk it in that carburetor parts cleaner that I have, and just get rid of any corrosion that's already on here. Alright, so I just finished reassembling the new carburetor. I didn't really film any of it, any of the parts where I took these apart, cleaned them, and then reassembled them, mainly because I wanted to take my time and do it properly, and I tend to rush things when I'm recording it. So plus you guys have seen it a bunch of times, me taking these things apart and putting them back together. It's pretty boring, so just trust me, nothing exciting happened. So yeah, got them all assembled. Basically what I did was I took the new carburetors, took everything off of those, cleaned the aluminum pieces in the this carburetor cleaner, and then took parts from the old carburetor and the new carburetor and assembled this, which has all good working parts. Now everything works, nothing's stuck, the butterfly valves work, and all this stuff. Now something I really want to say is when I was first having trouble getting this engine to run. A lot of you guys commented that I should adjust the fuel to air mixture needle in these carburetors that most carburetors have, and for some reason I could never find where that was. I always looked around, I could never find it, and so today with the old carburetor I finally found where it is. They're right here, and for some reason the factory has a brass plug on it, and I took a drill bit and I drilled it out and it just popped right out. Took a little wiggling, but I finally got it out. And yes, there is a air-fuel mixture ratio needle valve right there. So there is an adjustment screw for, you know, the air-fuel mixture ratio, but for some reason the factory has it plugged up with a little brass plug. And same thing with this one. They're right here, little brass plug on there, and now I'm not going to be touching those right now just because they're plugged up for a reason. They're probably plugged up from the factory because both of these had the same thing. And yeah, I'm not going to touch them. I'm going to hopefully see if this fixes the problem that I've been having with the engine. And if not, maybe I will, you know, play around with these and, you know, fine tune it or something like that. But yeah, let's put the new carburetor on and see if it actually fixed the problem. Alright, so I just put these new carburetors on here. I hooked up everything, and yes, I did put a fuel filter back on here. Yes, this is the original fuel filter that I had on here. I did clean it out. I ran the air compressor through it both ways, and I made sure not to damage it. And yeah, there was a lot of contaminants, in here, so you know it's doing its job. And yes, I know I probably should buy that gas tank sealer, that stuff that you put in a gas tank. Yes, this is a homemade gas tank, and I know I should do that, but I will do that eventually. So anyway, now as you can probably tell, I'm kind of not doing the normal way I make these videos. Normally I record me installing, something like this and then speed up the video, possibly put some music to it or something like that. I'm not doing that in this video. Mainly because you guys have seen me work on this before, and it's going to make for a shorter video, but I'm hoping it's going to make for a more interesting video because you guys aren't really wanting to know how I do this stuff, you just are more interested in the result. So now remember that last time I was working on this engine, I was having a really big problem with gasoline leaking from the carburetors into the cylinders and overflowing this engine with gasoline. So before I start this engine up, what I want to do is I want to, check the motor oil and make sure that no gasoline got in the motor oil. So I'm going to go do that. Alright, so I am really glad I checked the motor oil before I tried to run this engine because, yeah, look what came out of it. 2 of these and a little bit of this. Look at this. This is probably more gasoline than it is oil. Remember those, remember the last video of this project, I had the cylinders flood out a couple times with gasoline because the needle valves in the carburetors stayed open and the carburetors flooded out and just dumped a bunch of gasoline in the cylinders. I think that happened like 4 times in the last video. And yeah, some gasoline did leak past the piston rings and the pistons, so that kind of does prove my point about how piston rings aren't that great. So, but anyway, yeah, some gasoline did seep past the pistons and the piston rings, and there was a lot of this in the motor oil. And so yeah, I'm really glad I checked the motor oil before I tried running this. Now, yes, I did have the engine running a little bit in that video with probably some gasoline in the oil. Could that have damaged it? Maybe. Can I change that fact? No. There's nothing I can do about that, so it's not worth discussing anymore. It happened. I'm ashamed it happened. I can't do anything to change it. So, anyway, I just put new fresh motor oil in here. I bought this stuff for this stuff's for motorcycles. It's like $10 a quart. So I think I put like 2.5 of these in there. And yeah, let's drag this thing outside and see if all this work on the carburetors, let's see if it actually fixed the problem that this engine has been having. Choke on. Here we go. What is that? Do you hear that? It seems to be... What is that? Do you hear that? What in the world? I think I fixed it. It stopped making that weird noise. So I wasn't really sure what that noise was. That was really weird. At first I thought maybe the valve wasn't closing because it seemed like the carburetor was like pushing back when it does it. The RPMs dropped incredibly when that happened. That was really weird. But what I think it was is I remembered on the old carburetor. Where is that thing? On the old carburetor, right here. Right here. This is supposed to have a vacuum line that goes to the petcock, and I don't have the petcock installed. So what I did with this is I just plugged it up with a little piece of hose with a bolt in there, and that seemed to work. And I kind of forgot to do that on this, and I plugged it up with the same thing I plugged it up with the old one, and that seemed to get rid of that noise. What may have been happening is maybe air was rushing in there and possibly igniting, and that maybe, I don't know, but once I plugged that hole up, it seemed to get rid of that noise. So I think I fixed it, but I don't know. Let's keep it running, see if it happens again. So yeah, I think it fixed it. I'm not entirely sure. I still need to do, I need to ride it up the road a little bit, but it seemed to be running really strong. It didn't die. I had it running for 10 minutes. And then my dad walked out. He wanted to take this thing for a spin, so of course I let him. And this is what happened. So 2 switches. And if you need to kill the engine, this is for fan, this is engine, this is main power.
Okay.
What do you think of it?
Pretty fun.
Yeah.
Tearing it up.
So yeah, my dad got on it a good bit, and this held up. It really held up. It seems to run fine. It was running probably maybe 25 minutes today, and it didn't die. It didn't have any problems. Yes, it does have a little issue with running in the higher RPMs, but that's possibly jetting issue or whatever that is. I'm just happy it runs. It runs. It won't die after riding it for 5 minutes. I'm happy. Now that noise that was going on when I first started the engine is sound. I don't know if you guys could hear it in the camera. It sounded like air rushing through a small hole really fast every now and again. And every time it did it, the RPMs of the engine went way down, sometimes killing the engine. At first, there's a car alarm. At first, I thought it was maybe the valve got stuck open or something like that. Maybe because there was a little gasoline in the oil, a lot of gasoline in the oil. Maybe the valve got stuck open and that was rushing air in or something like that. And then I realized that there's a hole in the carburetor that you're supposed to hook up a vacuum line that goes from the carburetor to the petcock. And on the old carburetor, I had that plugged up with a little piece of hose with a bolt screwed into it. So I had that plugged up on the old carburetor, and I forgot to plug it up on the new carburetor when I first started it up. And after I took that bolt and the little piece of whatever it is, a little piece of plastic and the bolt, after I took it off the old carburetor and put it back on the new one, that noise totally went away. It seemed to run a lot better, so it seemed to fix it. I'm not entirely sure if it fixed it, but it seemed to totally go away once I did that. And yeah, I'm incredibly happy with this thing. Now, Ryan's coming over tomorrow, and I think what I'm going to do is, I know you guys always give me a hard time anytime I put Ryan on any of this stuff, but really, it's the best way to figure out if my design will hold up. Put Ryan on it. If it doesn't break, then it's probably not going to break anytime soon. If it breaks, then I know that there's something wrong with that design and I need to figure out a way to improve it to make it so it won't break. So really, Ryan is a good way to figure out if my design is bulletproof or not. If something breaks, it's not bulletproof and I need to design it a lot better. So that's why I put Ryan on this stuff and tell him just go nuts. If it breaks, then I know that I need to improve it in that way. So I'm going to put him on this and see what he does on it tomorrow. But I'll probably upload that video in the next day or so. And now the next thing to do with this frame, with this project, is to paint this. Again, I'm kind of leaning towards not spraying it, just because in my experience, when you spray stuff, if it's mainly all tubing, which this is, spraying is not really that cost effective, because when you're spraying it on a tube, only like a little bit of the spray is going on what you're trying to get, and there's a ton of overspray and you seem to lose a lot of paint that just goes on the ground, goes everywhere on the trees. So I'm kind of thinking about painting this with a paintbrush or possibly a roller. I have no idea if that would be better or worse. I would just have to do, thin coats and maybe a couple of coats. I don't know. I may just end up spraying it, but I still need to. I've already chosen the colors. I've chosen orange, bright orange, not like a deep orange, but a bright neon orange. And all the parts that come off the frame, I want to paint black. I think that will look incredible with this frame. But anyway, I'm rambling. So yeah, I'm gonna end the video here. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and have a nice day.